Nagmoachale, Subimbi.
変ねえじゃん。バルヒムなーで。
Types of people in this world. Those who are massive fans of the hit 2002 PC game Warcraft 3, and those who've never played it. I found myself in that second camp until last month when I recorded a video of my experience trying Warcraft 3 for the very first time. In that video, I played through the entire human campaign, knowing nothing about the story or gameplay going in, but having so much fun that by the end I came to the conclusion, this is such a great video game, I would have to play through all of it, although I figured that might be a more fun thing to do on my own time rather than record the experience for content. But you guys, you would not have that. I got so many comments saying that you all wanted to see my full reaction to the entire game that I don't think I have a choice, so that's what we're going to be doing today. In this video, I will be playing through all 4 of the main campaigns in Warcraft 3, as well as all 4 of the expansions campaigns, soaking up everything this legendary game has to offer as a completely new player. Again, I'm someone who knows basically nothing about the story or gameplay here beyond what I experienced in the human campaign, but even there I missed some stuff that we have to go back and see. You guys let me know about that. For anyone wondering, we are once again not playing the Warcraft Reforged thing Blizzard tried to make however long ago. We are playing the original 1.27 release, and I'm still holding out hope that this story will have a happy ending. Warcraft 3 begins with a beautiful Blizzard cinematic, showcasing the land of Azeroth. A knight trades blows with an orc in the middle of a stormy field as narration gives backstory on how humanity and orcs have fought for generations. This is basically the one thing I know about the Warcraft universe going into this game. Humans are the good guys and orcs are the bad guys. That's about it. But this cinematic then hints that a new danger has come to threaten the world. We're then introduced to Thrall, leader of an orcish clan who has a dream in which a prophet issues a warning. Upon waking, Thrall meets this prophet, who then says to follow him to the coast, which Thrall goes along with, sensing some great power emanating from him. This is how we are thrust into this game's tutorial, and it's a bit of a ham-fisted one. RTS games are a somewhat complicated genre, so maybe it makes sense to spell out the basics of how to select and move units for completely new players. But the fact that this game just has some guy telling you in very direct language how to go about doing that is kind of funny.
To order Thrall's forces to defeat this foul creature, select all of your troops, click on the attack button, and then click on the knoll.
It's blunt to say the least, but I guess I only find it funny because, as you guys let me know in my last video, this tutorial does include some very important plot information, meaning that everybody has to play through it. We meet the prophet at the coastline who tells us that demons are returning to the world and Thrall needs to lead his people across the sea to Kalimdor if they want any hope of survival. This leads us to the second part of the tutorial where we have to build a quick base in preparation for our departure. Things are going well enough, although another orc leader and friend named Grom Hellscream has been captured by a band of humans nearby. After building our base, we go off and slaughter some humans, freeing Grom, who has the genius idea to steal the humans' ships and use them to sail west, which we do, ensuring our people's salvation. Now, in the first video that I made on Warcraft 3, I made a bit of a mistake. I had said that the prophet was going around telling people to sail east to Kalimdor, but that's wrong. I just misspoke. He's actually telling people to sail west. I thought it was a small error that wasn't really worth going back to correct, but a ton of people raked me over the coals in the comments for getting that wrong, because it turns out fans of this game treat its story like it's the Bible, and I committed a mortal sin with that misquote. When I first saw these comments, they gave me a little chuckle because I couldn't help but think, come on, there's no way that this story is that deep and intense and filled with lore that people are still remembering the characters and all these details 23 years later after its release, right? All that being said, this tutorial was an interesting introduction to the story because, if nothing else, it was a cool subversion that our first exposure to gameplay was through playing as the orcs. I thought the orcs were the bad guys, and it's not often that a game will start you off by forcing players to see the narrative through the eyes of the villain. We are then thrust into the human campaign, where we take control of our protagonist and certified good guy, Prince Arthas, who is the real main character of this story. I won't recap everything that happened in my last video going through the human campaign, but to summarize some of the key important points, as well as some of the details I missed, the human campaign opens with a cinematic. The prophet from the prologue flies in to meet with King Tyrannus as he attempts to convince him to sail to Kalimdor to save humanity from impending doom. The king refuses the prophet, who responds by saying, if he won't listen, he'll find another champion who will. We then cut to take control of the king's son, Prince Arthas, who we can gather from context will be that champion that saves humanity. He's meeting with an old friend, Uther the Lightbringer, and the two discuss how we have to go accomplish a basic task of freeing a human village that's being ravaged by some orc invaders. Going into our first real mission, I was expecting a pretty basic experience of just using my units to go fight some bad guys and see a small bit of combat. Needless to say, I was shocked when I was then met with side quests from NPCs, mini-bosses that drop items, complex micro-opportunities with my hero and his abilities, as well as a million other things I did not expect to see in an RTS. I was so shocked at how much this game felt like a sandbox that I wondered if it would let me break immersion by doing something like letting Arthas go off and attack, click, kill some human civilians.
For my father, the king.
Oh god, and now I feel super bad. Arthas just killed an innocent person. I feel even more bad later on in the level when I stumble across a graveyard that has the poor lady's ghost hanging around in it. This is all in the very first mission of the game, and it serves as a stark reminder to me that Warcraft 3 was not going to be like any other RTS I had ever played. In the next mission, I see a Blade Master guy sacrificing human civilians who we weren't able to save in Mission 1, and I get a little bit shocked at how dark this story seems to be. In fact, I'm so mad at this orc that I make a beeline for him to go enact vengeance, completely missing everything else on the map. It wasn't until comments rolled in that you guys let me know I missed a whole side quest that unlocks a new unit, the Dwarven Rifleman, as well as rewards Arthas with the Orb of Fire, a pretty important and useful item I could have used and kept the entire rest of the human campaign. But this leads me to two key points that you should maybe keep in mind for my little playthrough here. Firstly, I'm trying to approach this experience knowing as little as possible so I can take the story and game in completely fresh. That means I am not going to be using any guides or wikis. Secondly, I'm also the kind of guy who gets overly invested in games he plays. Like when a character that I like dies in a game, I genuinely get sad. Or when something suspenseful happens, I feel that suspense. So when I saw this orc guy sacrificing a bunch of innocent people, I got genuinely mad at him. I felt vengeful like Arthas and just wanted to go kill him ASAP. I know this attitude will cause me to miss out on some of the details and side quests across this playthrough, and I'm sure it's going to be very painful for all of you who know way more about this game than I do, but bear with me, I will try to go back and note anything I miss. Anyway, we're then introduced to Jaina Proudmoore and Archmage Antonidas, two mages in the city of Dalaran. They meet up with the prophet who fails to convince Antonidas to champion humanity, although Jaina senses his power just like Thrall did. Jaina is then tasked with meeting up alongside Arthas as the two are to try and find the source of a mysterious plague going around their kingdom. After a little adventure across Mission 3, we run into the necromancer Kel'Thuzad, who seems to be distributing some sort of plagued grain. We then establish a base to hunt Kel'Thuzad down, who tells us he's working for a dreadlord named Mal'Ganis. After slaying the necromancer, who seems oddly okay with his own demise, Jaina leaves to inform Uther and the king, while Arthas figures out exactly what the plagued grain does.
The plague was never meant to simply kill my people. It was meant to turn them into the undead. Defend yourself! Under attack!
We are then given an epic 30-minute base defense mission that I nearly lose at the last second but barely squeak by a victory. My palms were genuinely sweaty by the end of this. The game has me fully invested at this point. Uther rides in to save us in the nick of time as he, Jaina, and Arthas then go off to Stratholme to try and chase down Mal'Ganis. But when we arrive at the city gates, we make a horrifying discovery.
Oh no. We're too late. These people have all been infected. They may look fine now, but it's just a matter of time before they turn into the undead.
What?
This entire city must be purged.
How can you even consider that? There's got to be some other way.
Damn it, Uther. As your future king, I order you to purge this city.
You are not my king yet, boy. Nor would I obey that command even if you were.
Then I must consider this an act of treason.
Treason? Have you lost your mind, Arthas?
Have I? Lord Uther, by my right of succession and the sovereignty of my crown, I hereby relieve you of your command and suspend your paladins from service.
Arthas, you can't just...
It's done! Those of you who have the will to save this land, follow me. The rest of you, get out of my sight.
This is a pivotal moment of the game, a memory I'm sure is burned into millions of childhoods. It still feels impactful all these years later as I go around and I'm forced to A-click attack my own people because they're just innocent neutrals hiding in their homes. It breaks my heart. Even though I feel like Arthas maybe didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they would have turned into undead anyway, and Mal'Ganis shows up to plague them if you don't slaughter everyone first. Arthas massacres the city before leaving to further pursue Mal'Ganis to Northrend, while Jaina and Uther arrive to find Stratholme in ruins. The Prophet shows up once more to confront Jaina about the only way to save humanity. As Arthas hunts down Mal'Ganis in the north, he runs into Muradin Bronzebeard, an old friend, and Dorf, who tells Arthas he's commanding a troop in search of a legendary sword named Frostmourne. Arthas and Muradin press on further, but when Uther convinces the king to recall Arthas' soldiers back to Lordaeron, Arthas responds by hiring a group of mercenaries who help him burn his own ships so his people have no way home. It doesn't stop there though. Arthas then tells his soldiers that the mercenaries were the one who destroyed the ships on their own, and then he orders his knights to slaughter the guys who just helped him? This is something that is indefensible in my eyes, and shows how the young prince has now crossed his Rubicon. As Arthas finally reaches Mal'Ganis, he decides to take up Frostmourne in spite of many warnings that this blade is cursed. By claiming the sword, Muradin is killed, and while Arthas has the power to now defeat Mal'Ganis and his army, it's only at the cost of his sanity. Which leads us to Arthas' return home and another incredible cinematic.
Ah, my son.
You no longer need to sacrifice for your people. You no longer need to bear the weight of your crown. I've taken care of everything. Succeeding you, Father.
This kingdom shall fall, and from the ashes shall arise a new order that will shake the very foundations of the world.
So yeah, that's the human campaign. It is sad, but epic and exciting and heartbreaking and wild. I loved going through it in our first video and really felt like it was a massive triumph. It did bum me out that we didn't get a happy ending, but it turns out the human campaign was just 1/8 of this massive story, and there is a lot more for us to get through. So let's now continue onward and see if we can find a happy ending before it's all done. The Undead campaign continues where the human one left off, with Arthas, now a Death Knight, having demolished most of his father's kingdom. Shortly after, he's summoned to meet with another Dreadlord, Tichondrius. Although he confuses him for Mal'Ganis at first, Tichondrius informs Arthas that they are on the same side of this conflict, and he's here to congratulate him on behalf of the Lich King. His sword Frostmourne is empowered to steal souls and has claimed Arthas's, turning him into the Lich King's champion. There are more tasks to be done, though, as the Scourge is not finished. We now have to rally the Cult of the Damned, a group of acolytes who have been in hiding among the remaining human populace, and that kicks off our first level of the Undead campaign. So this first mission really confused me a lot at the start. I go and take Arthas, as well as 2 little undead guys, to rally this cult, and I'm told that I have to slay any humans who are going to try and run and alert the guards that I'm here. Oh god, killing more innocent civilians, great. On rallying my first few acolytes, though, a guard does show up, and I have to take him down, which goes by a lot slower than I thought it should. Everything in the narrative up until this point has told me that Arthas has become this incredibly powerful being with his new sword Frostmourne, but in this fight I feel weaker than I was when I was a paladin. It just takes forever to kill this guard. After rallying the last of my first few acolytes, with 1 guard dead, I don't have it in my heart to kill these remaining civilians who are fleeing into their homes. I just feel too bad. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have to keep on fighting soldiers as I go along anyway, and as I run down the road, I immediately see more guards and engage them in combat. That's what you do in an RTS after all. But these guys are tough. They even end up killing one of my ghouls. I don't understand what's going on. Like, this has to just be like the first mission of the human campaign, right? I thought I'm supposed to just be going around the place, exploring the map or whatever. I'm then given an invisible unit, a shade, who can scout ahead and find acolytes for me, which I use, and I start to see that there are so many guards, it's gotta be impossible to fight through all of them, right? And it's only then that I realize, oh my god, this level is a stealth mission. I'm supposed to be dodging all these guards, which is why they're so strong. I should be using the shade to scout ahead and see their patrol paths. I was already blown away by the subversion of RTS norms when the first level was basically an RPG adventure, but now it turns out that Warcraft 3 is also a stealth game, and I have to dip between these trees to find a second entrance into the city. I go around dodging the rest of the guards and killing off any innocents as I rally the rest of the cultists. I do a little side quest that lets me raise some more units from a nearby graveyard to fight past a choke point of guards, which goes pretty well. After rescuing the last of the acolytes, I am thoroughly impressed, once again, at how genius this game design is when Tichondrius shows up to congratulate me once more, along with bestowing another task. Now, we're to go off to Anderhall and get the remains of Kel'Thuzad, who we are tasked with bringing back to life. Apparently we need some sort of special carrier to transport his remains, and this is how we are introduced to the siege unit for the undead, the meat wagons.
What the hell is that? This crude contraption will allow you to transport the remains of our men.
Honestly, when I saw this, I was both shocked and amazed and in love and horrified. The body horror Blizzard have going on here, comboed with the cartoony nature of the low-poly world, is just the most beautiful mixture of opposites. This is also partly why I wanted to play through the original version of Warcraft 3 instead of the Reforged one. Honestly, the low-poly look of this game is amazing to me. I bet a lot of people now look back on it as an eyesore, like, oh wow, this game is so old that you can see the individual polygons that are used to make up the character models and environment. But I love that. Modern gaming titles are great at looking realistic, but realism is boring. Low-poly games are like an impressionist painting, where you can see the individual brushstrokes that make up the picture that brings this beautifully human touch to the creation. Why don't people appreciate this more? Anyway, we find our way through some humans to get to Kel'Thuzad's remains, who speaks to us from beyond the grave, explaining that this is why he wasn't worried about us killing him back in the human campaign. We then regroup with the Dreadlord, who tells us we have to transport the Necromancer's remains in some kind of special urn to the elven city of Quel'Thalas for his reanimation. Naturally, the first step in this task is to go get that urn, which is guarded by paladins. Great. Time to go kill more of the good guys. Honestly, slaying all these paladins was so sad to me. I don't even know why. I think the double whammy of Arthas going from good to evil, comboed back to back with killing off the last remnants of the good guys, is just really tough for me to stomach. I feel pretty far away from getting any kind of happy ending at this point. As for gameplay though, this level is the first moment we get to to actually do some base building with the undead. And it took a long while for me to figure out how they're supposed to work. The undead are a really interesting faction to use. You summon buildings using acolytes, similar to how the Protoss race warps in buildings in StarCraft, but you also have this scourging of the land like creep that Zerg have. You also have a basic soldier unit that can be used for fighting, but he's also the one that gathers your lumber, except acolytes are the ones that gather gold by sticking them inside a haunted gold mine. It's unique structuring. I love the creativity of their design, although the undead were definitely the race that took me the longest to figure out, as you can see by my horrible graveyard placement. I figure things out eventually, at least to a point where I can go kill off the 3 paladins. It takes a bit of time to build up an army large enough, but once I have a swarm, the first 2 go down relatively fast, but then oh god, the third one is Uther. Uther bemoans how Arthas has destroyed this land his father worked so hard to cultivate, before then revealing what's inside the urn he's after.
The urn holds your father's ashes, Arthas. What? Were you hoping to piss on them one last time before you let this kingdom to rot?
Oh god, the story just gets more and more sad! As we're slaying Uther, I half expect a cutscene to interrupt the gameplay, letting some hero come in and save him at the last minute. Maybe Jaina will swoop in and use some sort of magic to teleport him away. After all, Uther has been like one of the 3 main characters for the Alliance in this entire story so far, but then
There's a special place in hell waiting for Arthas.
We may never know. I intend to live forever.
that's it! He's gone! God, I thought the story couldn't get any darker! As we claim the urn, we presumably dump out our father's ashes and fill it with the necromancer's remains. Now we are off to Quel'Tha loss, although before leaving, Kel'Thuzad drops an interesting bombshell.
Having nothing. Only the Dreadlords held us. They are the Lich King's jailers. I will tell you all, but I want this one.
We then see a cutaway to an interlude as 3 Dreadlords meet in some undisclosed location. Apparently, some Archimonde guy is demanding a report on the Scourge, which Tichondria says is going well, although they're suspicious of Arthas and wonder if someone has ulterior motives. And this moment in the story immediately got me completely hooked again. One of my favorite kinds of narratives is when there's a story that has no straight-up all-powerful bad guy, instead featuring a series of interweaving political networks of different factions that all have their own goals. I was getting kind of worried that this game was just going to be a good versus evil narrative, but now I'm learning that there are multiple layers as to what's going on. The Scourge and the Dreadlords aren't entirely aligned for some reason. The Lich King and Arthas might have other motives, and I thought the Orcs were supposed to be the bad guys anyway. We have like 3 different villains at this point. Even though the story is looking pretty dire by now, the fact that there is now this mystery being introduced and the motivation behind the bad guys has me hooked again. I'm willing to play through the sad parts, satisfy my curiosity, and see how things are going to end. Meanwhile, Arthas and his undead army make it to the elven forests of Quel'Tha loss. The undead are now tasked with finding an entrance to the city of Silvermoon where they can reanimate Kel'Thuzad at some kind of obelisk. Here we have a really cool moment where we have to use some of the meat wagons to burst through the dense forest and trees. You can use a lot of the siege units in this game to affect the terrain in ways like that, which I was not expecting. I kind of wanted to take down all of the trees alongside the edge of the map and see if there were any kind of Easter eggs hidden inside them, but I figured that was probably going to take too long. This video is already going to take forever for me to make, so I pressed forward. We run into Sylvanas Windrunner, some elf lady who is intent on stopping us, and I actually recognize her name from Hearthstone, the one Warcraft universe game I've ever played, except my memory of her card in that game was way different than what she looks like here. I wondered what that was all about. Anyway, we slowly but surely mow down her defenses and make our way to the gates of quell the lost, knocking down the first one and pressing on. Sylvanas becomes a thorn in our side once again, as she then takes down a bridge on the way to the capital city of Silvermoon. To make matters worse, there's another gate blocking our path, and its key has been split into 3 parts scattered across the map. That means this next mission introduces us to flying units, as we rent some goblin zeppelins to transport us across the map and collect the 3 key parts. We get some new units to play with here too, including some cool spider guys that I love. I'm just going to be mass building these for pretty much the rest of the Undead campaign. And if you're paying attention to the gameplay here, this is probably the point where you may notice something a little bit funny. Namely, I am traumatized from years of playing League of Legends and MOBA games to a point that I'm just really scared of any towers I see. Every time I come across a turret somewhere, I treat it as if it's an all-powerful fortress. I try to avoid them at all costs or send my entire army to focus them down ASAP. We eventually wipe each one of the elven bases and get all 3 parts of the key to the next gate, making it to Silvermoon. As we enter the elves' capital city, Tychondrius shows up once more and begins getting a little testy with Arthas. He informs us that the Sunwell is what we're going to be using to reanimate Kel'Thuzad, which is also the pool that gives the elves their immortal powers. Presumably by us taking it and sacking the city, the elven race will be cut off from a major source of magic, but we're playing the bad guys, so we gotta do it. This mission is a pretty big one, as we have to build up an army large enough to siege the whole city. We're given another new unit to help us do this, the Necromancer, who can reanimate dead corpses to fight alongside us as skeletons. But one of the main reasons that I am going to be struggling with the Undead campaigns is because it takes me an embarrassingly long amount of time to figure out one key part of gameplay that we'll get to later. Don't worry, we'll get there. Additionally, in this level, Sylvanas sends these runners to alert the city of our incoming attack. We have to keep killing them before they reach Silvermoon, or they will bolster her defenses. So I start things off by just going over and wiping out Sylvanas' whole base to try and make the campaign a little bit easier. But after I do this,
I salute your bravery, Elf, but the chase is over.
Then I'll make my stand here, Butcher. Anara la Valore. Finish it. I deserve a clean death.
After all you put me through, the last thing I'll do is the kiss of death.
No. You wouldn't dare. Why have I been silent?
oh god, okay, well, there's another new unit I can use, I guess. Wow, the Undead campaign is a really sad one. We press onward and make our way into Silvermoon, where after a few failed attempts, I get to the Sunwell and destroy its protectors. We reanimate Kel'Thuzad as a lich, corrupting the Sunwell permanently, and as Arthas and Kel'Thuzad leave, we finally get to learn a bit more about what's really going on behind this story. As the two venture to the top of the mountain, Kel'Thuzad tells Arthas about the origins of both the Lich King and the Dreadlords. A demonic army known as the Burning Legion exists out in the universe, going from world to world, destroying all life. And now, it's being sent to Azeroth to set the world aflame. This legion is what created the Lich King, sending him here to prepare for their arrival many years ago. The Lich King's first job was to create the Scourge, which was meant to cleanse the land of any resistance that could hinder the Legion's invasion. Once that was done, his second task was to actually summon the Demon Lord that would spark the takeover. The Day of Reckoning is coming soon, which is why the Dreadlords were sent, to make sure everything is ready for their return, but there's clearly more going on beneath the surface among these factions that the Lich King seems to know about. Arthas and Kel'Thuzad then reach their destination. As we're told, our next job is to eliminate some orcs maintaining a demon gate. I love this mission because, once again, we get to see a little bit of the political dynamics that exist among the various bad guy factions.
Legion has sent the dead to test us. Victory to the Blackrock clan!
We orcs are the true servants of the Burning Legion. These mindless undead are weak, pure.
Your people failed their task, Savage. You too must be
scourge from the world.
I honestly have no idea what he's talking about here. Like, I don't know what the backstory of this game is. I assume we'll learn it later, but I love this kind of world building and indirect storytelling that hints there might be a bit more lore than what we're being shown. We slaughter every one of the orcs and kill all their heroes, though. Hooray. And eventually the demon gate is off. Kel'Thuzad then uses the gate to speak to Archimonde, the apparent commander of the Burning Legion. Archimonde tells us that the only thing powerful enough to bring him into this world is a tome from some person named Medivh. This tome is being kept in Dalaran, and once we retrieve it, we will begin the summon. The next day, we're at the gates of Dalaran, where some mages have tried to build up undead barriers to prevent us from entering. Archmage Antonidas is the one behind them, protecting Medivh's tome. This level is pretty basic in terms of gameplay, as we just build this new unit, the Abomination, who has enough health that he can survive the damage from these barriers, but this mission did give me the opportunity to do something that you guys said I needed to do in the last video, because there are some neutral monsters here on the left side of the start of the map, and if I click on one of them 50 times in a row, God, I love old games and their Easter eggs. I wish developers still did things like this. Anyway, we race up our army, go slaughter all the mages, including Antonidas, another good guy down, before we then retrieve Medivh's tome to go summon some demons. In the prelude to the undead finale, we're given a moment where Kel'Thuzad says something about how Medivh was a crazy, powerful person beyond what people even realized. Tichondrius then shows up to remind us we're here to finish his work today by summoning the Legion. This last mission is one where we have to defend Kel'Thuzad for 30 minutes as he summons Archimonde. It's honestly really fun. You have these goblin landmines that you can use to try and lay traps for humans who keep coming in waves to attempt to stop us, and frankly, this mission isn't as easy as I thought it would be. I've kind of been breezing through most of this game so far since I am relatively familiar with RTS titles, but in the final minute of this mission, the human faction sends a huge wave of units who actually get to Kel'Thuzad and kill him in my first go. I was not expecting that. One restart later, and I managed to summon Archimonde, though, ushering in the invasion of the Burning Legion.
Come forth, Lord Archimonde. Enter this world and let us bask in your power. Tremble, mortals, and despair. Doom has come to this world. You have done well, little lich. My plan worked perfectly.
Lord Archimonde, all the preparations have been made.
Very well, Tichondrius. Since the Lich King is of no further use to me, you Dreadlords will now command the Scourge.
As you wish, Lord Archimonde.
Soon, I will order the invasion to begin. But first, I will make an example of these paltry wizards by crushing their city into the ashes of history.
This has got to be a joke. What happens to us now?
Oh my God, even when the bad guys win, it still somehow feels like a failure. How is it that we keep accomplishing our goals, but then there's some sad twist to send the protagonists in peril? Even when we're the bad guys, this happens. The Lich King Arthas and Kel'Thuzad have all been betrayed. The Dreadlords now rule the Scourge, and Archimonde has started the end of the world. Talk about a sad story, the literal end of the world, but at least it's showcased through another beautiful cinematic.
Velar Sumaris, Azaratha, Rakas, Nah. Belanora, mordanos nelar, il amor no falos cadar.
As the Undead campaign comes to a close, the Orc campaign picks up where the prologue left off, with the Horde fleeing to Kalimdor. Frankly, I was so happy to start up this campaign. The Undead one was so sad and depressing that even if the Orcs are the original bad guys in Warcraft, they are a welcome sight to behold. There is no way this campaign will end as sad as the last one did. We meet Thrall as he lands on Kalimdor, separated from the rest of the Orcs by a large maelstrom that they passed through on their journey. Our job is to go off and find the rest of our tribe, which means another fun RPG mission. One of the really fun things about this game is how every time you move to a new campaign, you aren't only getting to use a new race that has new mechanics, new base building, and units, but you also get to use new heroes. Thrall is going to be one of my favorites. I love all of the heroes with big AoE or offensive spells, and Thrall is a great one, even when he only has his first skill, Chain Lightning. It feels really fun to use. Anyway, we collect some trolls into our party before we run into a few centaurs killing off the big cow men, who we later learn are the Tauren. We run into their leader, Cairn Bloodhook, who seems like a pretty cool guy, and an even more fun hero to play. We don't actually get to control him for a few more levels, but Cairn feels like a real League of Legends champion or Dota hero to me. His first ability deals massive AoE damage in a line that hits enemies really hard. His second is some sort of pulverize that stuns and damages enemies in a circle around him, like an Alistar knockout. He kind of looks a lot like Alistar too. You guys don't think that Riot were copying heroes from Warcraft and Dota when they were making League of Legends to you? Anyway, Thrall and Cairn team up to fight off the rest of the centaurs. Thrall then asks where he should go to rally the rest of his people and find their destiny, where Cairn tells us there is an oracle nearby who we could seek out, as he would likely have answers to all of our questions. Our next mission sees us making our way towards that oracle alongside Cairn in what might be the only fun escort mission I've ever played in a video game. At this point, I'm still trying to dip around and see if there are any side quests or hidden storytelling secrets across the map, and the fact that the caravan that I'm escorting will pause its movement if I ever run off the pathway, allowing me to go explore freely anytime I want, that's really nice. I am kind of eager to keep the story rolling though, because I do want to find out what happens next. We reach the end of our trek, and Cairn shows off a wonderful low-poly cinematic of him stomping the ground to take down a mountain, blocking the way of some hostile centaurs who were chasing after us. He then points us in the direction of Mount Hyjal's base, where Stone Talon Peak houses the oracle. Meanwhile, we get a cutaway back to Lordaeron, where the Burning Legion are razing the continent to the ground. The Demon Lord Tychondrius meets with Manaroth, a Pit Lord, to discuss how the invasion goes. Once again, there are some interesting political tensions here, as Manaroth is revealed to be the owner or creator or something of the Orcs. I can pick up from context the Orcs were another race who were meant to prepare the world for the Burning Legion's invasion, although they clearly failed in their tasks. Tychondrius informs Manaroth that the Orcs are no longer in Lordaeron and have instead landed on the distant shores of Kalimdor. Manaroth says that the Orcs are his by right, and he will claim them wherever they choose to run. But before his rage overtakes him, Archimonde shows up to say that even if the Orcs have thus far betrayed the Legion, they may still prove useful to their cause. 5 days later, Thrall's Orcs are nearing the base of Mount Hyjal, where they run into Grong Hellscream, who's in the midst of fighting some humans. Thrall is somewhat shocked to see the situation, not knowing that humans had traveled to Kalimdor as well, but takes up arms alongside Hellscream to fight off their historic foe. This is when we're thrown into our first real base building mission as the Orcs, and I will say the Orcs feel much more intuitive to me than the Undead were. This is a lot more classic RTS gameplay with workers, soldiers, and all that jazz. The peons are some of the most adorable worker units I have ever come across in an RTS. It has to be mentioned. Our goal here is to build up a base and make our way to a laboratory on the other side of the map. There's a number of different human tribes in the way, and Thrall doesn't want to harm any of them. He orders Grom Hellscream not to, but Grom does not listen and goes off attacking on his own. We fight our way through the humans to make it to our destination alongside Grom, although after finishing the mission, Thrall accosts Hellscream for betraying his orders. Grom says he couldn't help himself, though, because it feels like it's the old days again, with demons drawing near. Thrall dismisses him and orders Hellscream to go build a settlement that they can meet up at once Thrall confronts the orc. This throws us into our next mission, where we play as Grom, building the base in a new forested area that has the orcs a little freaked out. Honestly, it had me a little freaked out too. I mean, what are these wisp things? They're attackable. Are they good guys, bad guys? Should I kill them? I honestly don't know. Our goal is to amass 15,000 lumber for our base, which I like as a unique mission objective. It creates a little balancing act in strategy in terms of how much lumber do you want to conserve for the mission goal versus how much do you want to spend on units and buildings. As we chop down more and more trees, a band of night elves take offense to our presence and begin attacking us, serving as the main antagonist for this mission. We meet some goblins who offer a side quest to go kill some furballs, which are absolutely adorable creatures, but I do the quest to get some goblin shredders that makes harvesting lumber go all the more quickly. It took me a while to finish this mission, but honestly, I didn't mind, because Grom is a really fun hero. He seems to have the same abilities as the Blade Master from Mission 2 in the Human campaign, where he can create mirror images, as well as go invisible with an empowered auto attack coming out from stealth. I also learned later that he has the Garen Spin to Win ultimate, which sort of suggests maybe League of Legends is not as original as I first thought. I have fun exploring with him and get a lot out of this level as I eventually rack up my 15,000 lumber. Mission complete. Meanwhile, Manaroth and Hychondrius have made it to Kalendor, revealing that their ancient enemy, the Night Elves, resides here along with their demigod Cenarius. Archimonde demands that Cenarius be destroyed before the Legion starts their invasion of this continent, so the two hatch a scheme to trick the orcs into doing exactly that. Manaroth spills his blood into a pool that will lure the orcs to come and consume the now corrupted magic source, filling them with rage and enough power to slay the demigod. And seeing this setup comboed with Grom's uncontrollable urges, it has me worried that we have another fallen hero storyline coming right around the corner. We then cut back to Grom, who has awoken Cenarius with the lumber harvesting. The demigod takes up arms alongside the Night Elves, sending a band of them to go and destroy our orc encampment. This mission is a really cool one, actually, as it starts with a setup that we're going to see a few more times across Warcraft 3 that I really love. At the very beginning of the level, you have a widespread camp with many different bases that are all controllable, and in just a few moments, the Night Elves begin attacking. Because I have control of these bases, and we are now in real gameplay, I assume this is the start of our mission, and I need to rally some units together to defend. Before I can do too much, though, the Night Elf forces manage to wipe nearly every one of my orc encampments, and I am left with a single solitary base. After destroying nearly all of my fortress, Cenarius then regrows the forests around and commands the Night Elves to go wipe out the final base on their own. What's so cool to me about all of this is that this is all scripted, but because it was told through actual gameplay, I had no idea if I was messing up. Normally in most video games, anything scripted that the player doesn't have control over is shown just through cutscenes. You don't have important story beats happening in gameplay scenarios where players have control, since theoretically someone could break the story. I don't know if anyone's ever successfully been able to bug out this mission, since you do have real control. It's like a real mission, but I love the fact that Blizzard pulled this moment through gameplay because it really did make it feel like my base and army were being hopelessly demolished by a demigod. Once we're down to our last base is when the mission really begins, and we start building up an army to fight back, but it is clear that we're not going to be able to do this alone. Things are looking pretty hopeless until our witch doctor tells Grom that he senses some sort of great power in the woods that we might be able to use to defeat our enemy. We then go through a balancing act of continuing to raise an army to defend while Grom goes off on an RPG mission. We find the source of this power, buying items and killing creeps all along the way. After a lot of fighting, we eventually make it to the source of this power, which is that corrupted pool guarded by some sailors who we dispatch. Our witch doctor senses that this pool is cursed by some sort of demonic energy, and other orcs caution Grom that Thrall would be against giving into our rage-filled impulses. But Grom goes against the war chief, saying that giving into rage is what orcs are meant to do, as he then drinks from the pool, giving him the cursed power. God, it's like none of the heroes in any of these storylines understand what foreshadowing is. Why does this keep happening? I was actually really starting to like Grom, but now we have to use him to go off and slay the good guys once again, this time killing Cenarius and dispelling the rest of the Night Elves, protecting this land from the Burning Legion. Once the task is done, Manaroth shows up and fronts Grom.
Come. I alone empower you to bring chaos to this world, and by the end of this void, you shall.
Meanwhile, Thrall and his band of orcs are making their way toward the Oracle, where they find a group of humans have entrenched fortifications leading up to his cave. That means we have to build up an army and use some goblin zeppelins to fly our way over there. In other words, it's another big flying mission where we're introduced to air combat. I do a quick side quest to free some allies before making my way through the human fortifications and reaching the cave, where before I enter, I catch a glimpse of Jaina Proudmoore making her way into the cavern ahead of Thrall and Pan.
Be wary. That cave's the perfect spot for an enemy. I was raised by the humans. I know their tricks and strategies.
Wait, Thrall was raised by humans? Was that mentioned earlier? Did I miss something? When do you learn that? God, we are more than halfway through this base game. Probably 20, 25 hours of gameplay in. How are we still learning more backstory and lore? As of recording right now, I still don't even know what he's talking about. It's not something revealed in this game. Apparently, this world has so much lore that it won't even fit into this already massive title. This is like a Tolkien novel or something. Anyway, Thrall and Cairn then enter the cavern before coming to a fork in the road as the two split up, which starts another dungeon RPG mission. Now, I've said before that I love these RPG missions that don't have any kind of building. The first level in Warcraft 3 is still one of my favorites just because it's so dense with content that really makes the map feel like a living, breathing world. But the dungeon missions in this game, like this one, really turn things up to 11. And I think the reason they're so memorable is because of the hero system. Since heroes have all of these abilities and micro around killing enemies while healing allies, the gameplay in these short skirmishes is super enjoyable. Additionally, because heroes are made more powerful with items that are dropped by monsters and the destructible environment, players are incentivized to go through every corner of a level, killing every enemy, destroying every boss, and making sure they find every bit of loot. Normally, I'm the kind of guy that likes to speedrun through a video game just to keep getting to the next beat in the story, but the fact that this game has this interesting hero system that intertwines with the gameplay so well creates an experience where I personally want to go through and explore every nook and cranny. I want to see everything this dungeon has to offer to get all the cool loot, and in doing that, I'm treated to all sorts of really great moments of environmental storytelling. Whoever it was that created the levels in Warcraft 3, they deserve some kind of award. I go through about halfway through the dungeon when Thrall reaches an impasse, and we have to switch over to Cairn, who continues the journey. We naturally explore every bit of the other side of the dungeon with him, picking up items, using traps, and killing mobs until the two meet up and press forward to the end. We then learn that the Oracle and Prophet are one and the same, and Jaina was the champion who led the survivors of humanity to Kalimdor. Although the two are initially hostile due to their ancient feud, the Prophet tells both orcs and humans that they're going to have to stand together now. The Burning Legion has come to wipe out all life on Earth. With Lordaeron in ruins and Hellscream already succumbed to Manaroth's control, the only way to fight back is together with another campaign finale. Jaina, Cairn, and Thrall all meet just outside the territory of Grom's orcs as they prepare to assault their brethren. The goal of this last mission is to use a gemstone to capture Grom's soul and bring it back to Jaina, who can save his spirit with her magic. And I gotta say, this mission finale starts off pretty amazing. I love RTS games that have you fighting alongside AI allies, and it's cool to see orcs and humans literally on the same team in story and gameplay. We're controlling Thrall and the orcs who have to fight our way to the other side of the map to meet up with Grom, not only dealing with his defenders, but also the addition of demons from the Burning Legion who literally rain from the sky. I first do a little bit of exploring across the map to try and mess around with any potential secrets, but before long I just want to save Grom, so I'm making a beeline to the opposite side of the map through all of the corrupted orcs. I love some of the fights I get to have in this level, between the huge army I have to build to assault the enemy, as well as the massive demons from the Burning Legion with their huge particle effects. You get to have visually spectacular battles playing through this finale. Even though the demons and Grom's army make for some pretty tough fights, they aren't that difficult to break through as we make our way to Grom for one final confrontation.
After all, you always knew that the demons corrupted our race, and that's only half true. We gave ourselves up willingly on Manon. But the truth is right. We drank Manon's blood. We brought this curse upon ourselves. We did this to our people knowingly?
Right after this, I just yoinked Grom's soul into my spirit gem, which feels a little anticlimactic. It looks like he's this big boss who we're gonna have to fight like so many other champions from the story, which makes it a little quick that we just get to use a single item active ability and then we're free to run away. I sprint back to my base and place his soul in the summoning circle where Jaina and a band of human wizards alongside orc shamans cast a spell that releases Grom from Manaroth's energy. Grom apologizes, but Thrall won't be hearing it as the two now have to go off and save their people.
blood haze has lifted. The demon's fire has burnt out in my veins. I have freed myself. No, old friend. You freed us all.
God, how does this game keep doing this? I can't believe I'm actually tearing up. Every single campaign so far has ended on a sad note. The bad guys win, or you play as the bad guys and you win, but you get betrayed. And now we see a heroic sacrifice that brings freedom to a people who I totally misjudged as straight evil, but who just needed a hero to sacrifice himself for their sins like he's Jesus or something. This story has genuinely tugged at my heartstrings in a way that I did not expect a game from 2002 to do. I guess in our quest to find a happy ending, this maybe counts. I mean, not really. It's a little too melancholy to be classified as a happy ending in my book. After all, we definitely can't stop here. Demons are still raining from the sky, and we have to stop the end of the world. Well, the demon's curse afflicting the orcs was put to rest by Grom's sacrifice. Human and orcish hordes still fight the remnants of the Burning Legion through Ashenvale Forest. It's now that we're introduced to Tyrande Whisperwind, leader of the Night Elf Sentinels, who aren't too happy about these Outlanders' intrusions. Our first mission then in the Night Elf campaign involves trying to reclaim the forest by driving them out. I think of the 4 races I've seen in the game so far, the Night Elves might just be my favorite. As the Night Elves, instead of constructing bases made of traditional buildings, you instead have these huge living trees that you summon for production called Ancients. And oh my god, I now understand why it's called Defense of the Ancients. Your worker units are wisps who harvest gold and lumber for you by attaching themselves to entangled gold mines and trees, with the added benefit of never actually cutting down any trees they harvest at the expense of harvesting lumber a bit slower. In this level, I build up my base a bit, training some archers to go off and complete our main objective of slaying a paladin. I swear, this game has me slaying so many freaking paladins. Before I do that, though, I take up a little side quest to help out some furbolgs that need saving as they're fleeing this land and need to rally their pack. Let me just say again, I absolutely love these guys and their character design, and I am so glad that I am not the orcs anymore so I can be on their side. They're so adorable, I swear to God, nothing bad better happen to them. I rally all the furbolgs so they can flee the area before going off to raise the human and orcs base, killing off the paladin and completing my mission, when suddenly, Tychondrius, alongside his demon agents and the undead, move in to attack. Tyrande has to retreat with her night elves into the forest as the Burning Legion starts ravaging the land, and at this point, I really wish the good guys would stop fighting each other and making the invasion so easy for the bad guys. It's starting to get old. Tyrande is chased down by Archimonde, who's here to announce the Legion's return to consume this world. The elves are a race that is centuries old, and 10,000 years ago they fought off the Burning Legion in their first invasion, leaving the demons with a grudge. Tyrande's allies are slain, but she turns invisible to escape Archimonde at the last second, except she doesn't move at all. It's just a Teemo passive. The demons could have killed her with a bit of AoE. Now we're thrust into a really fun level as we have to escape the forest while hiding from patrolling Doom Guards before time runs out in another stealth mission. Night Elves are empowered in various ways when the sun sets with special abilities, including the ability to turn invisible, so in this mission we have to use our invisibility to dodge a variety of demons to make it to the elven cities, alerting them of what's going on before the sun rises. This level, honestly, was a little bit tricky for me. It's really fun dodging enemies for most of the mission, but at the very end, you are met with this big undead base. I kind of assumed that even though I had gathered a bit of a force alongside me, because this was a stealth mission, I should probably just run through the enemy base to try to reach my allies. Except no, there is a big gate that you have to take down, and by the time I reached it, most of my allies had died. I just had to sit there invisible in front of the gate great. The only thing I could think to do was to try to unstealth and auto attack and then re-stealth one auto at a time, but that didn't work. I just died, so I had to restart the level like an absolute fool. Honestly, even after one restart, I was worried I wouldn't be able to make it through this base. It just looked too big and powerful for my Night Elf archers to take down, so I genuinely felt stuck here for a little while. But even that was kind of fun, because it brought me back to being a kid who would get stuck in video games not knowing what the obvious thing was to do next, and not having resources like a guide or wiki to help me. I refused to look up any sort of guide. I wanted to solve this puzzle myself the way I would have to as a kid, and eventually, after a bit of exploring, I found these siege units hiding further up the map. Making this discovery was such a fun eureka moment for me that made all the frustration worth it. I used the siege units to take down the undead base and reach the elf village in time, informing them that demons have returned and we need to awaken the druids. With Cenarius dead, oh yeah, sorry about that, we have to recover his horn from Moonglade Isle, as that's apparently the only way to awaken the sleeping druids, an entity powerful enough that they can fight off the Burning Legion. Not only that, we have to fight our way through a group of orcs to recover the horn before a separate force of undead reach the resting place of the most wise and powerful druid, Furion Stormrage. This mission is fun. It's kind of like a reverse defense holdout mission, where instead of defending a base for a set amount of time, we have to quickly raise an army and fight our way offensively to a goal before time runs out, as represented by these trees that the undead are chopping through. I fight my way through the orcs on the way to the horn, though, just in time to wake Furion, who rises up and awakens the forces of nature.
The horn has sounded, and I have come as promised. I smell the stench of decay and corruption in our land. That angers me. Come forth, you defenders of old. Crush these invaders as you did in ages past.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I can now see also where that tree card in Hearthstone comes from. And isn't Furion the druid class in that game too? Except I thought that guy was called Malfurion. Maybe it's a different guy. Anyway, Furion is awake now, and thanks to Rhonda for summoning him with a healthy amount of sexual tension, as there's a bit of a love affair going on between these two. The druid then quickly deduces that Archimonde is on his way to Mount Hyjal to attack the World Tree, where if he manages to drain the tree's energies, all life would be doomed. The two are then interrupted when they see a group of humans fighting off some undead, and Furion suggests teaming up with them. But because nobody in this universe knows what teamwork is, just like a League of Legends or Dota game, Geronda shuts him down. In the next mission, we have to awaken the Druids of the Talon, who reside in dens at the end of a valley, meaning another base building mission, moving from one area of the map to the other. There's a lot of bad guys in this level, including orcs, humans, and undead, and all of the gold mines placed along the map start off super depleted, so I have to use the unique ability Night Elf buildings have and slowly move my ancients to reposition my base over and over. It's a little bit annoying, especially with how slow these guys move, but it's still some more interesting gameplay innovation that I enjoy quite a bit. I fight through some humans before doing a side quest to cleanse a graveyard of some evil spirits, at which point I finally reach the outside of the den, running into satyrs and corrupted ancients that had agreed to help Tichondrius. Furion is furious at them for this and says it pains him they once called themselves Night Elves. Just more interesting lore, because why not keep dropping more history of the world on us? The game's almost over, but that's no excuse to stop now. We managed to fight our way through successfully though, and Furion is able to awaken the Druids of the Talon. Our next task is to go underground and awaken the Druids of the Claw, which means another dungeon mission, and I will say once again, I absolutely love it. These have definitely been my favorite missions of the game so far, since they feel so free for exploration, although I don't do as much exploring this time around because I just want to see where the story goes next. I do take the time to help out another group of furbolgs heal their shaman though, because I gotta do it. Everyone loves these guys. But then, as I reach the halfway point of the level, I run into a surprise. Illidan Stormrage, Furion's brother, is apparently sealed away here, having been imprisoned for 10,000 years. Why? I don't know. They're still dropping new characters and lore on us because this game is just packed with content. Tyrande wants to free him to help against the demonic invasion this time, although Furion disagrees, leading to Tyrande going off on her own to free Illidan as Furion awakens the Druids of the Claw. The two split up as we firstly go off to do the simpler task of reaching the end of the tunnel and awakening the other Druids, unlocking more units and bolstering our race's power. But more interestingly, we then cut back to Tyrande and get to make our way into the dungeon housing Illidan, eventually finding his prison.
Illidan, is that you?
After all these ages, darkness, your voice is like
Wait, Illidan is into Tyrande? His brother's girl?
I will hunt down demons, but I will never owe our people anything.
Okay, I'll admit it. If I played this game when I was a little kid, I would have loved this shit. An edgy story about an outcast with a badass character model who went against the grain, betraying his people because he was a loner bad boy who was probably just jaded that his girl left him for someone else. I would have been obsessed with Illidan as a character. He would have been my profile picture on every damn form I used, and I am not ashamed to admit it. The two brothers reunite, and Illidan promises to drive off the demons alongside Furion and the other druids, although Furion clearly has reservations about accepting his brother's help. Our next scene sees Illidan alone in a field, bemoaning how his brother villainizes him, eager to prove that demons hold no power over him anymore. Suddenly, Arthas appears, and after a brief skirmish, Arthas gives Illidan some interesting information. The Skull of Gul'dan, which is currently under the control of Tichondrius, is a major source of the Dreadlord's power, and if Illidan were to take it, he'd be strong enough to be able to slay the Dreadlord. I swear, if we are about to get another story of a cool guy lusting for power, letting hubris take over, and damn him forever, I'm gonna lose my mind. That's like the third or fourth time that's happened in this game. After racing an army with Illidan and making a long, arduous fight to a demon gate, Illidan does maybe the most predictable thing imaginable, and he takes the Skull of Gul'dan, consuming it, turning himself into some kind of demon.
Now I am complete.
Now we're tasked with going off to slay Tichondrius, where upon meeting, Tichondrius seems shocked to see Illidan once more.
What? Who are you? Let's see how confident you are against one of your own guides, Draco.
God, I am sorry if you're getting sick of me saying this, but what another great lore drop. Just hearing the shock and fear in Tichondrius' voice is so cool. It does such a good job of implying a history between these two that I want to learn more about. This game is so unbelievably good at that. It's like the story we're being shown is only 1/3 of the actual narrative going on, and I hope I can go play a bunch of other games or read lore books to try to figure out the rest of it. It completely hooked me on the Warcraft universe. We slay the Dreadlord and take down another baddie in what feels like a half victory. Tyrande and Furion arrive to find Illidan in his demon form. Illidan celebrates that the Dreadlord has been slain, allowing the forests to now begin healing, but Furion is furious at his decision to sacrifice his soul and banishes him from their lands once more. The following night, Furion dreams of a vision that summons him and Tyrande to a small glade. There he meets Thrall and Jaina, as well as the Prophet, who drops one final lore dump that answers many of our questions about what's going on.
It was you, my dear. Who are you to make such a offer to us?
I am the reason for the Legion's return. Years ago, I brought yours into this world. Doing so, I opened the path to demons as well. For my sin, I was murdered by those who I killed for years. Despite my death, war raged across the lands of the East for many long years, leaving entire kingdoms devastated in its wake. Now, at long last, I have returned to set things right. I am Medivh, the last Gun. I tell you now, the only chance for this world is for you to unite in arms against the enemies of all who live.
Oh, he's Medivh, the guy who had that book the undead were talking about. Honestly, I don't know if this guy was like from a previous Warcraft game or something. Maybe I was supposed to know who Medivh was beforehand, but even without that prior knowledge, this feels like a really cool revelation. After all this time, the Prophet Medivh has gathered these races and their leaders to make one final stand against the Burning Legion, who are about to attack the World Tree at Mount Hyjal. And it's now that we are thrust into the game's grand finale. Furion has some sort of plan which troubles Tyrande, as it will apparently sacrifice the Night Elf's immortality, although he says quite nobly, if the sacrifice gives them pause, maybe they've lived long enough. Now, it's our job to make sure we succeed in a level that feels like a truly epic fight. Archimonde and his Doomguard are on their way up the mountain. We play as the Night Elves, as we're tasked alongside orcs and humans to defend the World Tree for a
Oh, come on. Oh. Can I have that back, please?
This isn't really... No, this isn't happening.
Yeah, playing this in like, what, 2003 when it came out was a bit of a head trip. That's intended? Yeah, that's a sanity effect. There's like... Oh, come on! Face. For just a second, that one actually got me.
Little bit slower when it comes to Eddie, one of the slower heat smashes in the game.
Alright, activating heat with that back one. Plus frames on the high. Putting him in that corner. There is a ground to explode here as well.
What's going on, man? What's going on?
You're using up that graphic fidelity ability of that PlayStation. Nice back one.
A little bit slower when it comes to any one of the slow.
Full 45 minutes. This level feels really fun, in part because Blizzard goes all out in letting us build whatever we want. They give us extra gold mines and plenty of trees for harvesting resources. Essentially, this whole level is like a big tower defense game, as we first start by sending our units down to go help out the humans, the first layer of resistance. Because they're so far from us and the undead forces are so close by, it only takes a few minutes before the human base falls. Jaina just narrowly escapes Archimonde's wrath as the undead expand their base to bolster their forces more. Next up, we assist in defense with the orcs, who have more of those goblin landmines that we can use, which I like quite a bit. Even though I'm not a god at macro or anything, it felt so stressful and fun in the best way possible, trying to prepare for the waves of undead through setting up mines, positioning my heroes, and still building a ton of units as more fell each wave. I'm so zeroed in on this game, in fact, that I don't even notice the little dots that have appeared on the minimap, all slowly heading toward the world tree. The orcs have some huge fights here that feel truly epic, as more and more of the Burning Legion have joined the undead in their assault. This is such a great culmination of the entire game so far. It feels like a massive finale just through the visual spectacle. But after a while, the orcs fall to Archimonde as well, with Thrall only narrowly escaping himself. We Night Elves now stand as the last defenders, ready to face Archimonde alone for the first time in 10,000 years. So I begin mass building ancients to protect the world tree alongside a huge army of forces. It's now that I finally notice all of the wisps from ancestral spirits who have gathered around the roots of the world tree, seemingly preparing for some kind of event. I do my best to hold off the enemy. I rally more allies like trolls and furballs to stand by me, and I'm keeping the undead at bay until the final minutes when Archimonde himself shows up and starts pushing forward toward the gates of the world tree.
Archimonde's victory here has made him overconfident. He will not see the trap already until it is too late.
Witness the end, mortals. The final hour has come.
The roots will heal in time, as will the entire world. The sacrifices have been made. Just as the orcs, humans, and night elves discarded their old hatreds and stood united against a common foe, so did nature herself rise up to banish the shadow forever. As for me, I came back to ensure that there would be a future, to teach the world that it no longer needed guardians. The hope for future generations has always resided in mortal hands. And now that my task is done, I will take my place amongst the legends of the past.
Wow, that was so good. How is this game so big and so good? Looking back on it now, Warcraft 3 honestly feels as close to flawless as any video game I've ever played. I can see why people call it one of the greatest games of all time. In gameplay, the level design was impeccable, not only giving great unique challenges for an RTS game, but innovating the whole RTS genre with new kinds of levels I wasn't expecting in the slightest. The story was certainly amazing too. It genuinely tugged at my heartstrings more than once and hooked me on the Warcraft universe in a way I was not expecting. This feels like Tolkien levels of world building. I am so excited to keep learning about this world's lore. And of course, this was all just the single-player campaign. I haven't even touched on the custom games or multiplayer experiences, something that I am sure I could sink thousands of hours into as well. So yeah, even though I showed up to the party 23 years late, this game holds up after all this time, and I can see why Warcraft 3 was celebrated as a triumph. We even got a pretty happy ending. Even though the world tree is in rough shape and the Sunwell was corrupted and a ton of heroes fell, humanity, the orcs, and night elves all managed to defeat the Burning Legion and save the world. Just about every one of the many plot threads that were introduced have all been wrapped up, except I still have one question left. What happened to Arthas? Only 1 year after the release of Warcraft 3, Blizzard somehow managed to create and ship an entire expansion named the Frozen Throne. And even I, as an outsider, know that this expansion is considered by many to be one of the greatest of all time. A lot of people say it's better than the base game itself. You had a total of 4 new campaigns added to the single player, just as much narrative content as the original story's campaign. You had new units introduced, new balance changes made for competitive play, new auxiliary races added, as well as new heroes with new abilities. But perhaps most importantly of all, this expansion added the new map editor that was so detailed and gave fans so much power that players were able to upgrade their custom maps to a degree that they went on to spawn entire independent titles and genres of their own. For everything Reign of Chaos did well, the Frozen Throne somehow managed to do even better, and that includes the continuation of an amazing story that was not as wrapped up as I thought. I didn't realize until I saw Arthas on the box art and the game icon, but this story still has a lot of questions to answer and so many more directions it can go. After all, what happened to Arthas in the end? What happened to Illidan? Where did the Burning Legion come from? Who created them? Why did the Lich King turn on the Legion? And why did they betray the Lich King in the first place? I don't know. There's still a lot that I want to learn. And after seeing Warcraft fans say that the Frozen Throne story is even better than the original, I have to assume things can only get happier from here on, right?
In truth, it was I who was betrayed. Still I am hunted. Still I am hated.
opens with a cinematic that is way too good to have been made in 2003. This one reintroduces us to Illidan as he calls on some sort of sea-dwelling creatures from the ocean. We then meet Maiev Shadowsong, the warden responsible for Illidan's imprisonment, who's been out hunting him ever since his release. Our first level features Maiev in another RPG exploration mission, believing her troop is not far off Illidan's trail. Maiev almost instantly feels so much more fun than Arthas, or basically any of the heroes from the base game. She's this assassin-type character with all kinds of fun abilities. She has an AoE skill shot that deals damage around her. She has a great single-target damage over time spell to help whittle down tougher enemies. Not to mention, she also has Blink, a huge teleport that you can use to hop over walls and enemies in a massive range every few seconds. Now I can see where Dota's Blink Dagger and Flash in League of Legends came from. She's just so fun to use, and that's my very first impression of the Frozen Throne. It's just like Warcraft 3's base game, except even better, and I am very excited to get into it. Somehow, though, right as I'm getting all happy about exploring with my new character, this game already finds a way to devastate me.
Mistress, the Furbolgs have succumbed to the forest's corruption. It's as if they've lost themselves to mindless rage.
Their tribe suffered greatly during the Legion's invasion. They cannot be saved.
No! The Furbolgs were my favorite guys! How did this expansion break my heart 2 minutes in? Anyway, we take Maiev and run through the forest, exploring the densely packed map as we meet up with some more Night Elves who mention how many creatures of the wild are being driven mad by Illidan's power, leading us to believe he's nearby. We put some poor nature creatures out of their misery as we rally more Night Elf troops before running into the Naga, one of the 2 new auxiliary races added to the campaign who will be serving as Illidan's army. After we fight our way through a horde of foes, we chase Illidan through the forests to catch a glimpse of him boarding a boat and making his way off to sea. The Naga then try to burn down the ships behind him so he can't be followed, but we wipe them out before they finish the task, stealing a ship and kicking off the storm. Was it intentional that the prologue of the base game ended with the orcs stealing their enemies' ships to sail off to sea, and now the first level of the expansion ended in basically the exact same way? That's a cool little callback if it was on purpose. After a while at sea, Maiev and her troop land on a mysterious island. Although the island doesn't appear on any maps, Maiev recognizes this place as the 10,000-year-old ruins of an ancient elven city, having apparently been raised from the sea depths. We then start building up a base as the Night Elves, once again tasked with searching through this archipelago for Illidan and his Naga, before we run into our first side quest. A hermit warlock named Drakthul stands in our way. Maiev is immediately suspicious, sensing demons stench around him, although he assures us he's the last of his clan and no enemy to be feared. The orc has a side quest for us, where if we can go and slay some ghosts that have been haunting him, he'll explain what he's doing here. We go off and find the spirits of a tribe of orcs endlessly reliving a final battle, fighting each other, and after we put them out of their misery, we pick up a skeletal artifact, returning it to Drakthul, where he tells us his tale.
Nearly 20 years ago, the great warlock Gul'dan raised these islands from the deeps. He sought to unearth an ancient vault that held the remains of the Dark Titan.
Sargeras. You speak of the Legion's creator.
The same. After Sargeras' defeat ages ago, his remains were locked away in an undersea tomb. Gul'dan believed that opening the tomb would grant him the Dark Titan's power. For his pride, he and the rest of our clan were torn to shreds by crazed demons.
Maiev responds with disgust at hearing this story, which keys me into the fact that this Gul'dan character must have not really been a good guy. Anyway, we leave Drakthul and eventually find Illidan's Naga outside the tomb of Sargeras, who we dispatch before following him inside. Heading into the tomb, we then see runes which have been etched on the walls from Gul'dan. He had used these magic runes to journal his experience through the dungeon 20 years ago, providing us with some flashbacks as to what was happening back then. We learned through the first flashback that Gul'dan was in search of some sort of eye alongside his orcish band, although his soldiers were less fervent about their quest into the tomb than he. Now it's our turn to venture into this dungeon, and honestly, this level was maybe my favorite in all of Warcraft 3 so far. So this is just another RPG dungeon mission, like many of the great ones we've seen in the base game before, but somehow this one felt packed to the brim with content more than any other. Every corner of this dungeon has loot, or enemies, or secrets rewarding exploration. Some of these secrets are relatively obvious that players will stumble upon naturally, while others are much more difficult to access. Before long, I found a little secret passageway, and if I blink across this gap, I get a free rune. But then I see the pathway continues onward into an almost unseeable area, at the end of which we find a shadow orb fragment. Maiev explains that if I can collect all 10 fragments, I can reassemble the shadow orb, a powerful item from Gul'dan, giving a little bit of a side quest for us to go off on this collection mission. So this whole cavern becomes an even more fun place to explore, because every little ledge becomes a place that you can blink up to. Every obstacle is something that might be hiding a secret on the other side. And I know what you're thinking. I'm an adult. I've spent thousands of hours playing top-down strategy games. I should be able to find all 10 shadow orb fragments on my own. But no! Even though I tried really hard to find every little ledge and space to explore, this map is so densely packed with how well designed it is that I couldn't find them all. This just impressed me so much. Every little cool detail and unique mechanic from the base game is being brought back here and expanded on in this expansion. I mean, I guess that's what an expansion is supposed to be. One interesting bit of world building I particularly liked in this level is that when the Night Elves pass by a statue of a previous Night Elf queen that apparently betrayed them during the Burning Legion's first invasion, they remark how she has a tail, clearly hinting at a link between the Naga and the Night Elves. We continue onward to find more visions of Gul'dan, who was apparently abandoned by the rest of his orcs and is now being laughed at, mocked by Sargeras as he searches for his eye in this tomb. We're then introduced to Lady Vosh, a leader of the Naga, who reveals that the Naga were indeed once Night Elves. They were some faction called the Highborn, who were cursed and vanished beneath the seas when some well of eternity imploded 10,000 years ago. This kind of goes over my head. I mean, I'm someone that's still pretty new to the Warcraft universe, so I don't really know what the Highborn are, or why they were vanished, or what the well of eternity was, or why 10,000 years ago was such a busy time. One of my favorite parts of the base game, though, was all of that indirect world building and the hinting of a greater history that existed beyond what you were being shown. And I'm glad to see that these lore drops are not stopping in the expansion. We fight off the Naga before running into one final vision of Gul'dan, who's left alone and bleeding, ambushed by the guardians of this place and now at death's door. He complains that he could have claimed the Eye of Sargeras if his allies hadn't run off, and furious, his journey ends like this. We then enter the tomb of Sargeras to find Illidan already there. He explains that when he consumed the skull of Gul'dan, oh, that's who Gul'dan was. I forgot about that skull thing from the base game. When Illidan consumed his skull, it granted him Gul'dan's memories. Now he's here to claim the Eye of Sargeras and destroy his foes, overjoyed that his former warden is the first to face its wrath. Illidan then begins using the eye to collapse the tomb, which dooms all of Maiev's soldiers, although she has the ability to escape with her blink. Her soldiers urge her onward, and we're given a fun little mission where we get to blink all over the place to escape the tomb. I end up getting only 6 out of 10 shadow orb fragments. A bit disappointing, but still, that was a very fun level. As we exit the dungeon, we're met with the rest of our army, and now we need to escort a runner who has to quickly go and tell Furion about Illidan's plot. This mission is another half RPG, half base building one, and my first time playing it, I instantly failed. I killed off Maiev because I just attack-click moved the runner to the end of the maze. In the base game, Reign of Chaos, it wasn't that difficult to go through a lot of those RPG levels, since after all, because you have no way to build new units in them, the designers couldn't really make the experiences that hard, or they would be too easy to fail. This time though, I don't entirely know what they were able to do, but they made these these levels a real challenge. You will fail these missions if you're not paying attention, but I love that. I'm glad that the Frozen Throne is so much more of a challenge in basically every way. After one restart, the runner makes it through and is off to inform Furion and Tyrande of what's happening. We then cut to the two lovebirds surveying the wild as it heals from the Legion's invasion. Except I now see that Furion is called Malfurion after all? Okay, I knew that I remembered that in Hearthstone, but why did they change his name? You can't just build up a great story with all these phenomenal characters and then go back and change details like their names retroactively. It just shatters the narrative, and then it punishes people who pay attention to the details of the story like me. I guess Malfurion and Furion are close enough. So maybe I can let this one slide. Just don't do that again. Don't change history anymore, Warcraft. The runner shows up and informs Tyrande and Malfurion about Maev's situation. The two of them then leave to help, sailing off to provide reinforcements. By the time they arrive on the island, Maiev has found herself in pretty grave danger. Malfurion and Tyrande then have to trek through the forest and reach Maiev before her base is overwhelmed, with us controlling both their trek and the defenses of the base. Once again, I underestimate the difficulty ramp in the expansion, and after making it halfway through the island, Malfurion just dies and I have to restart the mission. Between not finding the Shadow Orb and taking longer to finish each level and dying twice already on these RPG adventures, I'm starting to feel like I'm a bit of a failure, but it also feels really good that I am being encouraged to actually use all of my RTS knowledge and skill a bit more than I might expect in a typical single-player campaign. Tyrande and Malfurion make it to Maev's base just in the nick of time to provide reinforcements. Maiev, however, is naturally upset at Tyrande for freeing Illidan and kicking off this wild sheep chase in the first place. Malfurion cuts through the argument and the trio team up to go hunt down Illidan. I complete a little side quest that unlocks some new units, which makes it easier for me to go north and assault the Naga base. We wipe out the rest of the Naga as Tyrande chases down Illidan shortly after Malfurion and Maiev show up. And let me just say, I love the dynamic between Illidan and Malfurion here.
Ask it off! Brother, what are you doing here?
I've come to stop you, Illidan. Instead of banishing you, I should have returned you to your cage when I had the chance. I was weak then, but no longer.
I have sworn allegiance to a new master, brother. I have a great task to perform in his service. I'm sorry, but I cannot allow you to stand in my way.
Just hearing the voice lines, I love how nuanced this feels. Like Illidan is kind of the bad guy in the story so far, but it's so obvious he's not really evil. You can hear the reverence he has for his brother in his voice. He's just an anti-hero. He's such a cool character. I'm so glad we're getting to follow up on his story. Anyway, Illidan reveals that he's sworn allegiance to some mysterious new master and runs off with his Naga, escaping to the sea, although the Druid and Night Elves swear to chase him down. Malfurion, Tyrande, and Maiev continue hot on Illidan's trail until they reach the ruins of Lordaeron back on the original continent where our whole adventure began. Furion then says he's going to go off and commune with nature to figure out what's going on, while the other two continue following Illidan's path. It's then that we run into Prince Kael'thas, leader of the Blood Elves, who are yet another race introduced to the narrative. Kael and his Blood Elves are fleeing undead coming from Dalaran, who have been hounding his people for quite a while. They're now attempting to escape across the river, and Tyrande offers to lend them our aid, although Maiev is taken aback, thinking it's a bit of a waste of time. Sorry, Warden, but that's what our next mission is. We escort the Blood Elves in another actually fun escort mission in the video game, Stop the Presses. Early on in our mission, we're given a little side quest to bolster our forces, but I decide to ignore it this time because somehow this expansion is bringing up more new questions about the story than it's answering. What is a Blood Elf, and where did they come from? What happened to Dalaran on the old continent? Where's Illidan? What's he up to? Who's his new master? And we still haven't even seen Arthas once. I'm eager to finish this game and find some answers. chapters, so I'm starting to pick up a bit of a speedrunning mentality, ignoring optional content and just focusing on completing each level ASAP. After a long trek, we make it across the river, at which point Tyrande says she'll stay behind to fight off the last horde of undead. During her final stand, though, the bridge collapses and she is swept off to sea. Kael'thas wants to quickly follow the river's flow to try and save Tyrande, but Maiev stops him, saying that Tyrande knew the risks she took, demanding Kael and his blood elves help her hunt down the demon that she's after. Meanwhile, Malfurion is off communing with nature, where he feels the roof of the world in Northrend is being torn apart by a great force. Illidan and his Eye of Sargeras are casting some sort of spell. Malfurion quickly regroups with Maiev to inform her and Tyrande of what's going on.
Maiev, we've got to move quickly. Illidan is weaving a spell that is splitting apart the roof of the world. We must... Where is Tyrande?
I'm sorry, Shandon. The priestess has fallen. He aided a band of Alliance warriors against the undead. The priestess fought valiantly, but I saw him torn apart with my own eyes.
Wait, she wasn't torn apart, right? She drowned. Am I being gaslit? Anyway, Maiev introduces Kael'thas, who says that his scouts have confirmed what Malfurion saw in his vision. Now we play as the Night Elves alongside Blood Elf allies to go and stop Illidan in whatever spell he's casting. This next mission is a pretty fun one. I try to build up a huge army in the first true RTS challenge that we've faced in a while. It's fun using the new units that we've unlocked, but again, I'm very eager to continue the story. So when I'm given an optional side quest to go save a paladin, I kind of just ignore it. I swear my whole playthrough is just one big paladin genocide. It's not a good one for the defenders of the Holy Light. It takes a while to take down Illidan's base without the paladin's help, as the Naga feel like a really strong race, but I manage to take down the casters channeling Illidan's spell, and I stop whatever nefarious deeds he had planned. We then confront Illidan with Malfurion and Maiev. Almost instantly, Maiev decrees that Illidan should be put to death for his crimes, as she's quite eager to execute him herself. But then, a few huge revelations are all dropped at once.
Fools! See, the spell you channeled was meant to strike at the undead, our common enemy. My mission was to destroy the Lich King's stronghold of Icecrown.
And no heed to the cost! Because of you, Tyrande is dead!
Your pardon, Lord Stormrage, but the priestess may still be alive. She was swept downriver, but it's premature to simply assume
Silence, Kael.
You told me she was torn apart. You lied to me.
The betrayer's capture was our primary concern, Shando. I needed your help. I knew you would go to her, and we would lose our chance.
Just who is the betrayer now, woman? I must go to her immediately.
Believe me, brother. Despite all our differences, you know that I would never lead Tyrande to harm. Let me help you. My Naga can scour the river for us. Let me do this first.
I loved this whole scene. It got all topsy-turvy. Malfurion and Maiev looked like the two good guys, except I was being gaslit. We can still save Tyrande. Illidan, who had been framed as the evil bad guy so far, actually was just trying to kill the super bad guy Lich King, and now he seems genuinely remorseful and worried about Tyrande when he hears what's happened to her. I knew that he was a good guy all along, and thank God for Kael'thas. Speaking of, he's a good guy too. Maiev is shocked that Malfurion would trust Illidan to assist him in saving Tyrande, but Furion has had enough of Maev's outrage and leaves with his brother for our first campaign finale. Hours later, Illidan's Naga have located Tyrande's location, but she's being assaulted by a massive undead force. We now have to take control of two bases, Malfurion's Night Elves and Illidan's Naga, as we use both to save her before it's too late. Honestly, it was really cool getting a chance to play as the Naga here. They seemed like a really interesting new race. They were kind of annoying as enemies to fight, but now I am giddy with excitement that I actually get to build and play with their army myself. I also get to use my boy Illidan, which I'm very happy about as I lead my forces toward Tyrande. Our goal here is to destroy the red undead base but to get there, I first have to slay some trolls in a nearby forest. Unfortunately, I accidentally used some sort of damage over time spell to kill the troll boss in my first playthrough, which soft locks my game. I don't know why. It just didn't trigger the cutscene to get rid of these rocks, but one restart later and I get to start beating up on the undead. Illidan is another super fun hero to use here, just as much fun as Maiev, if for no other reason than his awesome demon ultimate. That ultimate ability makes his attacks ranged, it increases his attack speed as well as his damage, I think. It's the kind of powerful endgame fantasy that I thought Arthas would have with Frostmourne in the first Undead campaign. We destroy the undead bases and reach Tyrande in time. She's confused as to why Illidan is here, but he says that she has to trust him as he opens a portal for the two of them to escape, and we're given just a hint of doubt. Maybe Illidan is up to no good?
Where could they be? He should have brought her back by now.
Hurry! This is our last chance.
But then he comes through. I knew my boy wasn't betraying anyone. Illidan's a good guy, and don't you forget it. Tyrande is shocked that Illidan risked his life to save her, but he vows to always look after her safety. Malfurion is then reunited with his love and his brother once more. Illidan promises peace between the two of them from this day forward, and Malfurion tentatively lets Illidan walk free, although Illidan seems happy to bury the hatchet between them. He ominously states that he's likely angered his new master by aiding the Night Elves, and he doubts that their paths will ever cross again, but he bids his brother and former love adieu. As Illidan opens a portal to run off, Maiev narrowly slips in behind him, always ready to continue hunting down her former prisoner no matter the cost. And that is the end to our first campaign. Wow, what a good one. Not only was that more challenging and interesting than basically any campaign from the base game, but the story also felt so much more dynamic. It wasn't just another simple hero gets overzealous and curses himself from hubris like we kept on experiencing over and over in Reign of Chaos. You had all these interesting dynamics of Illidan being a bad guy who turns good, Maiev is kind of the good guy who turns bad, plus all of that Gul'dan and Sargeras lore was really interesting, to me at least. So much was packed into a singular campaign, and we've still got many more to go. Our next story follows Prince Kael'thas and his Blood Elves, who are serving in the Alliance alongside human forces that are still fighting against the undead in the ruined Kingdom of Lordaeron. Even though the Blood Elves seem eager and able fighters, this tit, Grand Marshal Garithos, is being a real jerk to them.
I am not interested in your fanciful excuses. You elves are here to serve the Alliance, thus you will obey my commands to the letter.
While Garithos leads his human army off to go fight waves of advancing undead on the front lines, he tasks Prince Kael'thas and the Blood Elves to repair some nearby observatories. Pretty simple work for these warriors. It's also made all the more annoying in gameplay since you're only given one soldier to slowly repair each observatory at first. It takes forever to repair the first one, so I go off and trek through a little dungeon nearby and start fighting some bad guys. Prince Kael'thas is another super fun hero introduced. I am really glad that Blizzard are keeping up the quality of all the new characters added. I make my way through the dungeon, picking up some loot like tiny buildings that I assume I'm going to be using to construct a base later on. As my worker finishes repairing the first observatory, I try and go to the second, but I can now see that it's only accessible by water, and Garithos didn't leave me any ships. It's only now when the Naga show up, as Lady Vosh appears offering us free transportation, a gesture of goodwill, because apparently these two races share a common ancestry. I take the boats and go establish a base from which I raise an army to go repair the last of the observatories. Once the task is complete, Garithos shows up, not to congratulate me, but to scold me.
Is it true that you've consorted with the vile Naga?
Well, yes, my lord. They helped us cross the lake. I assure you they pose no threat to us or to—
They are inhuman and must be crushed like any other enemy. Be careful where you place your loyalties, Blood Elf. I will not tolerate treason in my ranks.
I'm starting to think Garithos is just a jerk. In our next mission, an emissary shows up to tell us that our observatories have detected a large undead force massing nearby. Garithos has commanded that we wipe out the undead, but here's the catch. Garithos also ordered all of our soldiers, cavalry, and support teams go report to the front lines. This essentially means we've been given an impossible task, which we once again feel through gameplay as the level starts off with our outer bases being overtaken by waves of undead. I try to build some units quickly to rally defenses, but 4 of our 5 hubs are destroyed before I can do anything. It's now when the Naga show up once again, offering to fight against the undead alongside us. Kael'thas is worried about accepting their help, but Lady Vosh reminds him he'll likely fall if he doesn't take their support, so he begrudgingly accepts. With the Naga's help, we're pretty easily able to force the undead back, wiping out most of their forces. It does take me a while to finish this mission though, as this one feels like another real challenge, and this map is so large that it's hard for me to defend each one of my bases from the undead while mustering a force large enough to go wipe out the rest of them. I managed to do so thanks in large part to Lady Vosh, although Kael'thas worries that he's doomed himself by accepting her help. We also learn here that Kael and his blood elves are descendants of the Highborn, the same ancient race that the Naga are descendants from. Ever since the ancient Sunwell was destroyed, these elves have thirsted for magic, and without being able to quench their thirst, they'll surely die. Oh, okay, the Sunwell was the thing Arthas destroyed back in Quel'Thalas, right? And that has kind of doomed these roaming elves who need to get magic from somewhere. That's an interesting connection that's tying distant story threads together. When Garithos finally returns from the front lines, once again, he is not happy to see that we've accomplished our task.